Hi there. My name's Yang. I'm a real estate agent. It's always exciting to do a podcast and just talk about what's going on, what I want to talk about. It's great. Talk about GST and HST rebate today, and as well as development charges. Let's dive in. Just about a week ago, Ontario Premier Doug Ford announced we're going to cut provincial taxes on new construction, which is basically 8%. And that is a huge announcement. Also with Mark Carney, they're also slashing 5% GST on properties as well, and that already happened for Bill C-4. But with them combined together now, you can get 13% GST HST rebate up to $130,000. Prices up to $1.5 million to cap it all together. So I'm going to break down. So $130,000 max at $1 million. And anything between $1 million to $1.5 million, you get $130,000 as rebate. And anything over $1.5 million to $1.85 million, you get a gradual decrease from $130,000 to less. And anything above $1.85 million, you're going to get $24,000 in government rebate. That HST rebate of $24,000 was already there if you were buying as a primary residence. And that was for any pre-construction properties. So that's not new. So what you're essentially getting is $106,000 additional. The government was always giving out $24,000 rebate to begin with for HST. So again, it's a huge number. Is a significant number, and I think it has impacted directly. And so let's go on further. So this is applicable for any pre-construction sales between April 1st of 2026 to March 31st of 2027. So and this is only available for 1 year. Initially, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when they announced Bill C-4, it was only applicable for first-time home buyers. It was not applicable for any buyers who already purchased a home before, or it wasn't applicable for any investors. But at this time, between just 1 year, whether you're an investor, first-time home buyer, or a person who already had a residence to begin with, that already used their first-time home buyer benefits years ago, now they can benefit it as well. And this is a huge window of opportunity if you have the equity and you're financially stable. Right? If you're not financially stable, if you don't have equity, then what good it says, right? So anyways, talking about that. So here's the part. Also, there's obviously a little bit more conditions to it as well. If you're buying for your primary residence, the construction property has to begin before December 31st of 2028 and has to be completed before December 31st of 2031. So this is a long window. This is a long window for primary residence, but if you're buying a rental property, then the construction has to be completed before December 31st of 2029. So if you're buying primary residence as a pre-construction right now, you can even buy condos. But if you're buying rental properties, and if you want to use this rebate, so this only applies for properties that are already pre-built. Now they're inventory units for condominiums, or if you're outskirt of Ontario, outskirt of Toronto and GTA, you can construct a condominium really fast. That can do for in 2-3 years. That could work as well. But for new pre-con in Toronto, for investors to buy rental property, I don't think timeline's gonna work out for them. This rebate, it's only for people who wants to buy inventory homes in Toronto. On top of that, so by doing this, by essentially bringing this together, the HST and GST rebate, the government believes that it's going to make additional 8,000 new home constructions, and it's going to save around 21,000 jobs, and then also it's going to produce $2.7 billion. And of course, government estimates that this program is going to cost them about $1.4 billion. A lot of $1 billion. So I want to continue with this HST GST rebate on my own ideas. Well, first of all, this is very beneficial for buyers who wants to jump into the market because they're getting GST, HST rebated, huge money, like up to $130,000. And this is also good for developers because they had, a lot of developers have inventory homes right now and all across GTA that they are still paying for carrying costs. So the carrying costs for developers, they are, maintenance fee, property taxes, utilities, insurance, interest and construction financing, and opportunity cost for them to move on to different projects because they have their money all wrapped up in this inventory. And of course, this is good for government as well. The government is losing their initial gain on HST and GST, but they also get property taxes when somebody buys a new home and when developers make more houses. Those property taxes they're not cheap as it used to be. These homes has higher appreciation for their prices. So higher appreciation in price for them, it's not an immediate gain, but they also get immediate gain from, development charges anyway. So this is just prolonging more money coming in by having more properties for property owners to pay property taxes. So this is good for everybody. And going forward, and why I believe the government is doing all these, announced this GST, HST rebate. Well, first thing first, I'm going to read this. The construction employs over 1.6 million people in Canada, creating employment creation ripple effect on other sectors like engineering, manufacturing, technology, and retail. This industry contributes around $162 billion to economy annually, accounting 7.5% Canada's gross domestic product. That in mind for GDP, as you know, the pre-con industry, construction industry has been lagging for the past couple of years. And I don't know if you heard about these developers going bankruptcy. They have, and there are a lot of them. I'm going to name a few right now. Stateview Homes, Mascatine Group, $13 million loan, and Inspira Development, $116 million loan, and Maserati Development in Toronto, that's over $1.7 billion. Evergrande Group, that's mainly from China, and Van Dyke Properties, over $200 million in debt. And there are many, many, many more. As you can tell, some of them are a smaller group, but some of them are big group, like Maserati Group. They're huge and they collapsed as well. As you can tell with the GDP percentage that these construction companies have, it's a massive, massive amount of money. And I don't believe the Canadian government wants this portion of the GDP to fall. Construction companies, developers were making a lot of money for the past 10, 12 years. And now they're suffering significantly. And for them to lose the employees, lose the chain of command, losing the power, for them to all go bankrupt, that means that we're not going to have any more developers. And for these people, they're not going to stay in Canada. They're going to go to a different country. And when they do, we're not going to have any more developers in Canada to build more houses. And when we do lose these workers, when we lose that train, then we have to start from scratch again. That means it's going to be even more difficult for us to build new homes in the future. As we've been always saying for a long time, these days we're saying missing middle, but before it was a housing crisis and we didn't have enough houses in Canada. So for us to lose this group of developers, is not just GDP, but also for our future development of homes. And if we don't have this engine, we'll never be able to get this back again. And that's why the government wants to really help out these builders. From my point of view, again, this is not, insider story or anything like that. This is just my point of view of just looking at it as a whole. Please do not cite me on anything. I would like to just share my thoughts with you, not to go forward with this and say that this is absolutely what it is. Anyways, so because of that, I think that's why the government is making sure that these developers have an exit plan. Because as I previously said, or I've been saying for a long time, there's a lot of inventory homes in GTA. And carrying costs is not cheap. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. And some of them could be, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they need exit. And this is a great segue for exit for a developer to sell their inventory home and move on with a new project or pay off whatever loan they have. That's what I believe. On top of that, real estate purchase, sale, and leases that we also count as 12.5% of our 12% of GDP. So construction and real estate combined together, we make 20% of GDP in Canada. It's a huge amount of money. House prices needs to go down. Affordability has to get better. We do not want to lose this 20% of our Canada's GDP just like that. So that's why it's happening. And ultimately, for any government body, they do not want to see 20% of their GDP just disappear just like that. So that's why they made the decision to work on this, so they can stimulate the economy, stimulate the pre-construction, stimulate the developers to build more homes, make more homes more affordable in that sense. And quite frankly, I think it does have impact on that as well, because just 2-3 years ago, if you were to buy a townhouse in Richmond Hill, it would have cost $1.1 million, $1.2 million for newer projects, like brand new homes. When I was looking around 2 years ago, it was around 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 at around, Angus Glen area and around Burr Oak area. But now home prices has gotten cheaper. Now the home prices are around $900, $1 million, $1.1 million. But also at the same time, pre-construction properties, pre-construction prices has gone down significantly as well. Now they're around starting $900,000. If you were to think about this just 2 years ago, built by Treasure Hill, Couture was selling for around like 1.2, 1.1, 1.3. So if you're looking in that aspect and this aspect, there's now $400,000 difference in prices. And it's a significant difference, right? And why I'm saying that is because there's a lot of supply that's continuing to kick in Richmond Hill area, in Markham area, that's why I don't think the home prices has gotten up a lot in Richmond Hill area. If there's more supply, then, even if there's demand, if there's more supply than demand, prices can't really go up. And that is why they're making homes more affordable in that sense as well. And talking about the pre-construction, I was there just last week, right after the announcement. Premier Ford announced that. I went to, Queensville. I went to Bayview Trails. I went to Springwater, Anatomy. I went to Union Glen. And other than the two pre-constructions up above, Springwater was packed and they were not selling. And Union Glen was packed and they're not selling either. And today, what I was told was that many properties are gone. They're all sold out. It says a lot. And with the demand kind of back up, I do believe the next phases of Springwater or Union Glen will likely go up in price, but still cheaper than previous times. So that's why there's still demand. And also that 13% GST, HST, GST rebate is huge. So it just makes sense in that way. Moving along, another news just last week was development charges to be slashed by half. So development charges are basically taxes that the developer has to pay for a plot of land to develop. Essentially in Toronto, GTA area, I think, and depends on the municipality or the city, it would have been 20 to 30% cost of making one property. So slashing that by half, again, that's a huge deal. It's gonna open up a lot of room for a developer. Now, I'm not sure how long that's gonna happen. I mean, as for what I've read, government's gonna invest $4.4 billion into this again, and it's gonna be 10 years for them to pay for development charges. So they're saying for 10 years, I'm not sure how long it's gonna be or how much it's gonna be, but at least they are trying to work on it to make homes more affordable in that sense. As much as I never really believed in government, but they are doing really well. So I think that's really helpful. And according to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, which is CMHC, between 430,000 to 480,000 new homes will need to be built annually over the next decade to restore affordability level last seen in 2019. So CMHC is saying that this is an approximate doubling of the current pace of home construction. And our home construction has, decreased significantly the past couple of years. So again, I think this is a right way to make housing more affordable. And the government is trying their best to make it happen by cutting out the DC. And I have been a strong advocate that if the government wants to make houses affordable, they needed to slash development charges in the first place. So they actually did what they needed. On top of that, in 2025, the CMHC said housing construction increased 6% year over year, 259,000 units. The increase was driven by rental apartment constructions. And again, this is going back to the first video that I made. This is for purpose-built rentals. It's also part of the CMHC MLI Select as well. But a lot of purpose-built rentals are under construction for this specific reason. I don't know what their pro forma is or what their calculations based on for these to work out, all these construction. These are being built, which is great as well. But for the segue to this, so the point of this 259 units in 2025 It's not just, Ontario, it's everywhere across I think Canada. And even the 430,000 to 480,000 new homes, that's also across Canada as well. Toronto itself, we are still expected to see 20,000 to 30,000 new condos this year and 20,000 to 30,000 condos next year. And it's going to significantly drop in numbers in 2029 and then basically almost none in 2030. So we need to build more houses anyway to make housings more affordable. And also we need to build more houses to keep all these skilled workers paid and still continue to have our GDP strong. Because without the 7.5%, I think we can certainly say that we would be in recession and we would be really bad in finances to begin with. So I think the government is trying their best. In a way, they're giving us lifeline to dying industry in a way. But housing is something that's never going to die. If there's less housing to be built in the future, the affordability for the housing is going to be not going to be there. It's going to actually increase in prices because if there's no new construction, that means whatever existing houses are the only ones that's left, and they're basically kicking off the ladder for any new buyers to come in to buy a house. And at that point, that's essentially saying that everyone's going to be a renter. More than half of people are going to be renters and half are going to be homeowners, and eventually everybody's going to be a renter than a homeowner. So I think that this is a great way for Canada to save our GDP, our skilled workers, our big companies that pay taxes, and making houses affordable. And lastly, I want to talk about the Bill C-4. So recently, with all so many changes that's happening, and a lot of people are complaining that, what about me who bought pre-con just like a month and a half ago or 2 months ago? What about me? So anyways, I know this was a long chat, but I hope this clarifies something, and I hope this explains something to you. If you have any more questions, more than happy to answer your questions on your comment or email me or call me. Anyways, I hope you have a good day, and I hope you buy something during this time. I think it's a good opportunity if you have money. If not, there's always next time for first-time home buyer.